all over Kenya. But why human rights? Why now? Why is this a conversation we need to keep having over time? Yvonne Owino Wamari, the Advocacy Officer of National Coalition of Human Rights Defenders Kenya, welcome to the program. And we have a nominee. And the nominee is none other than Samuel Tai, who is a nominee for the Human Rights Defender Award 2018. First of all, Yvonne, what qualified Samuel for this nomination?
Thank you, and thank you so much for having us on
You're
the show. So Samuel is a notable human rights defender, and I'll let him speak more to what it is that he does and the passion that drives him.
Yes.
But the criteria for the selection of the nominees is impact. Does your work, the work that you do defending human rights, have an impact on your community? And that is one of the key sets of criteria that we had. And another one was challenges that are faced by these human rights defenders as they conduct their work. So those are some of the things, because we know that human rights defenders are criminalized in the work that they do. And as a result of that criminalization, they face a lot of challenges in the work that they do.
All right, Samuel, welcome to the Daily Brief. Yvonne says that you have a cause that you're very passionate about. Maybe unaweza tueleza what it's all about.
Okay, thank you for having me.
You're welcome.
I'd like to correct you, it's not the human rights defender, but upcoming human rights defender of the
Oh, you're an upcoming human rights defender. Yvonne, he's upcoming, he's not yet there.
The award has 3 categories. We have the upcoming human rights defender, and then we have the human rights defender of the year, and then we have lifetime achievement award.
So his category is
upcoming human rights defender.
Not human rights as earlier indicated.
Not yet.
Okay, go on, Samuel.
Yeah, so I'm passionate about the youth mostly. Yeah, that is my area. I try to empower them through activism, training them, giving them access to opportunities, and also empowering myself and also the community. I work as a community organizer. I work as a community because I'm a youth, and I best fit in those shoes. I understand the problems that they face are the same that I face. So
what are the human rights issues that young people face in this country from a human rights angle?
Okay. Dignity is one of the issues. Access to opportunity, the freedom of expression, their education, healthcare, also some of the environment that they live in.
We've had election cycles in this country since 2013, 2017 we had 2. We had a nomination process therein. We had issues around the electoral cycle, you know, getting IBC out of office, the Isaac Hassan Commission. And when all this was happening, there was a question on social injustice, especially on young people, the fact that they're being manipulated and exploited by politicians. What has been your contribution to that front?
Okay. I've been trying to make the youth avoid being used by not only politicians, even people with money, people who are older than them. They try to manipulate the youth because they know the youth need money, so they use the youth negatively for their own gain. I've been trying to address that in my community. And even one of the people who in my community has been trying to use youth in a negative way. We have even tried, we have taken them to
what
the police
initiatives
stations.
Have you done as you try to approach that issue?
We've tried to arrest them.
Arrest?
Yeah, and take them to the police station and tell them that what you're doing for the youth is not good. You need to face the consequences for your action.
Consequences for your action. Yvonne, why human rights? Of all other sectors, of all other issues, of all other causes, why is human rights that important?
Because as human beings, first of all, we have an entitlement to dignity. And in the way that we live, in the services that we receive, we have to have that entitlement, which is our first and foremost dignity that we have. And that is brought about, and that is enshrined within international, of course, instruments like the Universal Declaration on Human Rights, which I have to say we're celebrating the 70th year this year.
Yes.
We borrowed heavily from the Universal Declaration on Human Rights within our Constitution under Chapter 4 of the Bill of Rights. And for Kenyans, that is what our inherent dignity is anchored upon. That is what even the work of human rights defenders is anchored upon, the promotion and protection of human rights for all citizens in Kenya. So as we celebrate the 70th year of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights and the 20th year of the Universal Declaration on Human Rights Defenders, then I think it is the opportune time to celebrate also the human rights defenders that work towards realization of human rights in Kenya.
And how have we been, what is the score for us in Kenya? What have we been able to get right? What issues are still pending when it comes to human rights in this country?
I think that we are working steadily towards achieving human rights. You can't say that there is a score that you can allocate a country or a state towards the achievement of human rights. It's something that is progressive, it's something that is constantly continuing, that we should be able to realize that our citizens demand or deserve the best when it comes to human rights. Though I must say that we have the responsibility of upholding human rights doesn't just lie with the state. Human rights defenders come on board to complement the work of the state. But when you criminalize these individual human rights defenders, and even organizations, we have seen it happen, organizations that are championing for human rights, then there's a gap that is left that nobody is able to fill. And therefore, we fall back on the gains that we may have already achieved in the promotion of human rights. So I think it's for the state to work closely with human rights defenders and human rights organizations for us to be able to holistically realize human rights within Kenya.
The issue of teenage pregnancies, to some considerable extent, can be defined as a human rights issue. Samuel, what's your take on it? Because it also affects young people. What's your take on it?
My take on it is education. Education is the most important thing, sex education mostly, because a lot of parents shy from teaching sex education to their children. I think if sex education will be taught, that issue will be curbed. And also consequences for people who engage in such kind of activities. I think there should be tough consequences for people to avoid cases of defilement and child abuse, like molesting. Yeah, I think consequences and sex education are some of the solutions to that.
Yvonne,
Yes.
what would we do about this issue from a human rights angle?
We need to first of all recognize that children have rights, and those rights are supposed to be upheld as much as the rights of any other individual, any other citizen in Kenya. Children are vulnerable, and therefore the responsibility to uphold children's rights lies with us as the state, as the guardians, as the individuals under whom these kids are our responsibility. So we need to take that step to ensure that the rights of our children are recognized and are upheld. As he said, there needs to be also an accountability process for the perpetrators of these violations. We can't leave it to village elders to have a mediation when a young child a child who hasn't reached actually the age of majority, who gets pregnant, and you leave it to village elders to come to some sort of out-of-court settlement. So there has to be there has to be justice for these young children, and it is only through us that they are going to be able to realize that justice for the violations against them.
When it comes to this realization and addressing the problem in totality, does it exactly or essentially have to involve legislation?
There needs to be, of course, legislation in place, because that's the only way that you're going to be able to hold somebody accountable for something that they have done, something that is wrong in society, or social ills within the society. So there has to be an existence of legislation that you can say somebody did this, and therefore these are the repercussions of their actions. But there also has to be a moral standing within the community, whereby as individuals and as adults in the community, we need to be able to have some moral authority with which we say that this is wrong and this is right. Yeah.
And the president is on record addressing one of the issues that had been described as a human rights issue, and he actually termed it as a non-issue. And now that we're talking about human rights, would like us to go right there. The whole question of LGBTI. And he said, you know, well, that's a non-issue. We don't even need to be talking about it. But the approach that was being given was from a human rights angle. I'd like your take on it.
Speaking about human rights, we speak about human rights for all. Therefore, I don't refer to it as LGBT rights or rights of sexual orientation, gender identity, and expression individuals. They are human beings first, before their sexual orientation or their gender expression. So when you are denying an individual their right to health care, when you're denying an individual their right to housing or even employment, then that affects the individual before it affects what the person is. So,
it affects the who before the what.
Yes. So as we said, human rights are universal, and they apply to every single human being, regardless of your sexual orientation, regardless of your age, regardless of all those things that are highlighted even within our Constitution under non-discrimination. So by virtue of the fact that you are a human being, then you are entitled to these rights that are provided for under international law and the rights that are provided for within our very Constitution, regardless of what you choose to do outside of that scope.
That scope. Yeah. Samuel, as a human rights defender, and this is an issue predominantly with young people in this country, the issue of LGBTI. I got it right? Yes. LGBTI, that is lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and intersex persons in this country. What's your take in terms of how this matter should be addressed? Is it a non-issue, as the president called it? Is it a human rights issue? Is it a legal question? Is it a society issue? Where would you classify it?
It's not a non-issue. It's a human issue. We should accept that we have people of that nature amongst ourselves, and we should learn how to live with them. So society should just try to accommodate everybody, regardless of whatever your sexual preference is, because diversity, we are all, diversity is what makes us who we are. We cannot all be the same. Everybody has his own soul. So you just have to be able to learn how to live with everyone the way they are. I think that's my take.
Okay. At the end of it all, when you're taking stock, Yvonne, of whatever initiative, whatever activity that you've been able to undertake to promote defense of human rights within the country, where do you want to go? What do you want to achieve, and within what kind of timeline?
We would like to achieve a free and just society for all Kenyans, and a conducive environment for human rights defenders in Kenya to be able to operate. That is not something that is going to happen overnight, neither is it something that's going to happen in the next 2-3 years. We are looking at it for the long haul, and we are in it for the long haul, regardless of how long it is going to take. We've been fighting human rights for human rights for a very long time. From even before independence, we have been actively advocating to be able to realize our human rights. And you can see the struggle is still continuing until today, which means this is something that is not going to happen within a short time frame, but we are hopeful that it is something that is ultimately going to be realized in Kenya.
Ultimately going to be realized in Kenya. In the event you win this award, Samuel, what do you intend to do with it? What do you intend to do with the spotlight that comes with that award in promotion of the cause that you're passionate for?
I intend to use the platform to continue with my job. Now it will be a little bit easier to expand. Not easier, But it will be kind of facilitate. It will help facilitate my work in the community, and it will make me stronger. And it will it's kind of energizing. It's like a stopover to drink water.
An energy drink.
Yeah, it's an energy drink. So I think it is good for me, and I'll keep on with the job.
And I really don't think you were wrong earlier when you said it's going to make your job easier. Don't we all long for the time we shall put easy and human rights in one sentence, Yvonne?
Yes.
Wouldn't that be something to look forward to?
It definitely will.
And what would we do? What needs to be done for us to get to that level?
Respect for human rights, generally. We need to respect fundamental rights that are alive for every individual and every citizen in this country. And we need to have the will to be able to see a better future and not see only self-interest and self-gain. So we need to be able to work together towards one common goal.
Towards one common goal. Samuel, what is the most challenging thing about being a human rights defender? What do you have to struggle with every day?
Society in general. Because people understanding you, most people think human rights is a foreign agenda because they have been pressed for long. So they assume that being pressed is normal. And when you try to bring...
We've normalized it.
Yeah, they've normalized being pressed. So if you come up with something that is unpressing them, now they think that you're bringing in something foreign to them. But it's the lack of awareness, I think. So even the authorities, they have the same problem. If you try to explain to them about human rights, most of them don't work in a human rights friendly environment. So whenever you try to bring the issue of human rights, or others even benefit from
the violations themselves.
Yeah, from the violations themselves of human rights. So whenever you try to bring up the issue of human rights, it's always challenging. Sometimes you can burn out yourself by trying to make people understand what you're trying to say.
And borrowing from what Sam is saying, Yvonne, why is it that, or what can be done to cure this perception of human rights here, government here, and they go parallel? They never meet at any point. There's been that perception that human rights and government are worlds apart. Is that true?
I don't think it's true. They're not worlds apart. I just think that in the way that people perceive it, in the way that the state perceives it, we are seen as a Western agenda. We've heard that before, that human rights defenders and human rights organizations are advancing a Western agenda. And that, of course, has led to loss of credibility even within society, within the community. And that is a narrative that should be changed, because we are not doing anything that is polar opposite of what the government is doing. If anything, we are working to fill the gap that has been left by the state in trying to realize human rights. So there has, as I said earlier, there needs to be a political will for us to be able to work in tandem with the state towards that common goal, which is ultimately for us the realization of human rights, promotion of human rights, protection of human rights, and respect for human rights.
Promotion, protection, and respect for human rights. Thank you so much, Yvonne Owino Wamari, for coming in for the Daily Brief. She's an advocacy officer, and we've got Samuel Tai, upcoming Human Rights Defender Award. That's the proper title.
Yes.
We wish you all the best, and may you get the award and finally be able to put easy and human rights within the same sentence. And thank you all for watching the Daily Brief today. My name is Samuel Njoroge. Up next is Tony Timase with Inside Business. A little later, we'll have Shiksha Aurora with Newscat. Have a good afternoon and see you tomorrow.